Hello everybody, my name is Christopher Melendez. I'm an Azure Solutions Architect, and today I want to talk to you about the 10 steps to get started with Azure for Partners. Number one on my list is RBAC. So let's talk a little bit about theory. We're going to jump into the Azure Portal. I'll give you a little demonstration, and hopefully you can pull back some information and use on your day-to-day. Let's get right into it. Hey everybody, thanks again for joining me. We're talking about the 10 steps to get started with Azure for Partners, and today we're doing RBAC, right? So high level, just wanted to take you through this. This is my blog site. Come visit me, azurechris.com. Feel free to read through all of this, and really short, I'm gonna try to do each blog in separate sections for each of the 10 steps. But like I said, we're talking about RBAC. You can click on this link here, and this is gonna take you to Azure Learn. So if you don't know about Azure Learn is Microsoft's documentation for free, guys, so jump on it. This is what I've used to help myself get certified. So really jump into Azure Learn. It's all you need is an email. Like I said, it's for free. But I want to talk to you high level about understanding the difference between Azure RBAC roles and Azure AD roles and scopes. So Azure RBAC is really this is what we talk about with the permissioning to a lot of the Azure resources, so workloads, virtual machines, subscriptions, resource groups, resources. That's Azure RBAC, right? The other thing that we have is Azure AD roles. Azure AD roles help you do the permissions for user accounts and passwords, right? So like I said, Azure RBAC is really giving you the granular, fine-grained permissions to be able to do SQL database or WVD or storage account manipulation, things like that. And there are some built-in roles here. There's owner, contributor, reader, and owner has full access to the resources, including the ability to delegate access for others, which contributor can't. They could just manipulate, what you're doing on that resource in Azure, right? So the next thing I want to talk about was the scope, right? And at what level are you doing this? What level are you granting your permissions to your users, right? So it could be at the management group, which segregates or segments the subscriptions, or it could be at the subscription level. Maybe you have subscriptions for prod or dev, or different customers, and your whole subscription, you just give everybody the keys to the castle. Might not be your best option. Then you can go down and segment even further through resource groups, like I said, dev, test, what have you, or you can do right down to the resource level. So that's understanding scopes. The next thing, like I discussed earlier, Azure AD roles, right? So this revolves around users and passwords and things like that. So we talk about the global administrator that's built in. He's the guy with the keys to the castle. He's the guy that is created when you get your Azure subscription. Like I said, he has access to everything, and he can elevate his access with special permissions to owner to be able to delete RBAC in Azure resources as well, right? So he can delete full resource groups and all the resources under it. So very powerful. This is something you don't want to grant to your users. User administrator for me would be help desk guys, right? So Office 365, things like that. I think there's a lot of power in having that and just granting them user administrator. And then billing administrator, similar to director of IT or something like that, or a CFO might have that to be able to look at the costing and the billing of the actual subscription. So really high level, that's the theory I wanted to touch base. Read through this, there's some questions, great value there. But first, let's just jump into the Azure Portal. So now we're in the Azure Portal. I want to show you this. We can jump into Azure Active Directory, and I just wanted to show you some of the stuff in action, right? So we have users and groups here. Microsoft's best practice, it was always and still is to create groups, add users to groups, and then delegate the permissions to the groups, right? So you could still do that going forward. I have an executive group, a finance group, HR, IT group. So things that people or users, your end users at your MSP that would be administrating on behalf of would probably be in an IT group, right? And maybe you could break it down even more where there's a storage group or a virtual machine group, and then you can get granular access to that, and I'll show you some of that. But we can bounce back, and then we can look at the users, and I have a whole set of users here, and I've added them to groups. But what if I have a new user, and I just really wanted to show you this real quick. If I do test, and like I said, you can add them to the group here, but let's look at the roles, right? So we have the built-in roles, and just with the theory I was just talking about, billing administrator, global administrator, these are the built-in ones. These is a whole list of built-in ones, and you can create your own if you don't find what you need here. They have custom roles as well. So you can grant your user, when you're creating them, the role that you need, right? And this is Azure AD roles, all right? So what if I already have a user and I want to grant him access to something at a subscription level or a resource group level? So I have these couple of resource groups here. What if I want to grant access to a resource group? Even though this isn't a production or anything like that, I just click the resource group, I go to access control, I select that, and there you go. I can add a role assignment, right? So I can add it. I could say, who do I want access to have this? I can look at IT, like I said, maybe I want the IT group to have it, and then what role am I going to give them, right? It could be owner, contributor, reader. Maybe I'll do contributor. Right? Maybe they'll have access to everything that's underneath this. And then I could just do save and then they have access, right? And that, like I said, the scope is the resource group. It's at that level. And then I'm granting a group access to that resource group. Other things, I don't know if I have any storage groups in here. I do. This is the Cloud Shell. I could grant access at a lower scope to the actual resource, and you see access control is here as well, right? So I can add that. If I didn't want to add, I can also check to see who has access to this. I can look at the IT group and say, hey, what do they have access to? And they don't really have access to anything as far as this resource in general. I could also look at, cost management and billing. If I want to give finance group access to cost management, I could look at access control here and say, oh, let me add somebody to this resource, finance. Maybe I can add. There you go, finance. And I could say, what role? Let me look for cost management contributor. So there I go. I can add finance cost management contributor. They could look at cost management and billing, and they would have access to that. So really high level, guys. I didn't want to take too much time. I want to make this nice and quick for you. Feel free to go back into the Azure Learn, deep dive into that stuff, read my blog site. Let me know what you think. If there's anything I can change or make this better, or if you want to see any more stuff, please let me know. I can make some edits to this stuff. And yeah, feel free, azurechris.com. Leave a comment, click like, subscribe, the whole nine, you know what to do. And our next step in our Azure journey is going to be Azure Lighthouse, and we'll incorporate some of this permissioning and stuff with that. But please come back and join, and I hope to talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Thanks.